if you have never achieved financial freedom or, financial success beyond where you're at right now, the nervous system is not going to feel safe moving to that next level until we make it safe, until we
Hmm.
actually show it that it's safe to do that.
All right, y'all, I'm here with Rebekah. Thanks so much for being with us today, Rebekah.
Oh, so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Hope, for having me.
Yes, me too. And as we were talking about before I hit record, I'm excited to bring a brand new topic that we haven't really talked about on the show. And what I loved when we were chatting before is we're so aligned in like the whole holistic approach to things. And while mine is related to health, obviously yours is related to money. And this is not a super common approach, like looking at money and your relationship with money holistically. So I'm excited to bring this conversation forward. And I want to start with I feel like the journey part of this, like the personal journey part of this is important because I know that there's like a story of how you got here and why this is the route you took in your coaching business. So can you share with us, I guess, kind of your journey with the money thing and how you came into this holistic money and mindset coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the question. And my journey did definitely not start here. So I'm a trauma-informed master money and mindset coach with 18 years experience helping people reach their financial goals. But it definitely didn't start off that way. So I grew up below the poverty line. My mom was actually a single mom with 7 kids.
Wow.
And so we grew up with very, very little on government assistance, and we were facing, consistent homelessness and things like that. Luckily, we never were
Mm,
actually homeless, but it was a consistent threat to lose the home. We lived in a foreclosed home that needed a lot of work. My sisters ended up getting like lead poisoning from living there because the
mm,
paint had lead back then. Like it was a
holy
lot.
cow.
So then I went on to, as we do, repeat the, same patterns as my mom, and I became a teen mom at the age of 17. I got pregnant and had my daughter at 18. So continued the cycle of government assistance, that whole thing. And I actually, as fate would have it, got started at, I knew college wasn't an option for me, so I got started to working at a bank. And I just found my pay stub not that long ago. And the first year that I was working, I made $9,000 in the whole year,
Oh my
with a baby at
gosh.
home. Yeah, it's
Holy
kind of crazy.
cow.
So,
Wow.
so that kind of like started my corporate hamster wheel, as we do. And the only thing that I knew about money growing up was I heard people saying that, hard if you work hard enough, you can make a lot of money. So that was
Mhm.
like that was it. That was the extent of what I had heard. So I was like, I know how to work hard. I'll just do that. And so I worked as hard as I could and I learned from everybody under the sun. And it started working. I was getting promoted each year. I was making more money each year, but it was coming at a very high cost, which was essentially my daughter's childhood and my health,
Mm.
right? And I know you help women who are in like adrenal fatigue. It was really, really bad for me when I started getting really sick and exhausted and burned out. And I had just kind of got to this crossroads where I was like, I quote unquote had made it on paper to myself. I was probably making about 50 or $60,000 a year, which coming from where I came from, I was making more than, the
Yeah.
people in my surroundings. So I was
Yeah.
really proud of myself, but I was exhausted and burned out. And that's about the period of time when my mentor came into my life. And he saw more in me than I saw in myself. And this is really when I realized the power of having a mentor come in.
Mhm.
And he sat me down one time. We were setting SMART goals. He introduced me to all of that. And he asked me a question that I'll never forget, which was, Rebecca, if you could make any amount of money in the world, what would you want that to be? And I remember actually being taken back by the question because I kind of just thought, you go to work and you just make however much money. Like, I don't know. What do
They
you
tell
mean?
you how
How
much. Yeah.
Right, like they tell you how much you don't have any control over this, right? So
Mhm.
I was kind of appalled by the question, and after lowballing him a little bit, I came up with a number. We sort of settled on 100,000. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, whatever, just have a round number. Sure, I'll make 100,000. No real belief in myself, but
Sure.
I borrowed his belief enough to get to work. And so 9 months later, I had hit my first six-figure year. And
Wow.
that's really when I realized the power of manifestation, the power of that you have a part, you have a say in what happens in your life. And that was my real first experience of that. So I, continued down that path, continued making a whole heck of a lot of money in that realm, in the financial realm. And it really did lead me eventually to another burnout. We don't have to go into all of that, but to another burnout where I ended up quitting my job.
Mm.
now I help women to make more, save more, so that they can finally live more. And I do that through my own methodology, and walking the path myself has been the real catalyst to see how important it is to help other women with this,
Mhm.
because someone came into my life and helped me and it changed the trajectory of everything. And so I
Mhm.
want to do that for others who are also feeling stuck.
Yeah, that's such a powerful story. I mean, powerful, like whether you would have like gone out on your own to do the coaching thing. I mean, props to you anyway for like breaking the generational cycle. Like, no, I'm not gonna let like that's amazing. I'm curious though. I'd love to know what was kind of the catalyst that made you go into the coaching space. Like you obviously wanted to shift, you wanted to help people, but what was because I mean, it's quite a shift from kind of the corporate banking to online
Yes.
coach.
Yeah, and I kind of glossed over that part because I know sometimes
No,
you
no,
know,
you're
bring
good.
it along. But so basically, what happened is about a decade had gone by since I made my first six figures. So I was making a ton of money and crying on my way home from work every day. I was
Mm,
completely exhausted. The financial industry is very male dominated. It's very high pressure. It's sales oriented, right? So I remember the time when I was just starting to get into personal development, and I went to a event that Brendon Burchard had put on, which was
hmm.
like
Love him.
yeah, he's incredible, and it was called like the growth event. And I
Yeah.
got to see that people were like living this life where they were actually doing what they loved. And I'll never forget, I had made the bank hundreds of thousands of dollars that month, if not in like millions the year before. And I was
Yeah.
sitting down to do a performance review with my boss, and he says, Rebecca, I just have to say, like, yeah, you did a great job. And I was so proud of myself because I had just hit almost a six-figure bonus at this time, like because of all the
Wow.
work that I had put in. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, he's gonna give me accolades. Like I was just waiting for someone to like see me, right? And all the hard work that I had put in and all the sacrifices that I had put in. And he goes, great job, kind of glossed over that. And he was like, but the problem is that they don't care what you did yesterday. They don't care what you did last week, last month, and they definitely don't care about what you did last year. The only thing that matters is what you're producing now. So what's on your pipeline now? And I just remember having like this out of body experience and being like,
Yeah.
that's the final straw. Like I've given you guys, and this is 13 years in at this point, I've given you everything that I possibly can. I
Mm,
don't care what it is that I have to do. I'm going to do something else. And so I took all of that, all the money that I was making and I just banked it. And I had this glimpse of, this growth and coaching and all this stuff that I had been introduced to through Brendan's work. And I decided not that long thereafter, I quit my job and I was like, I'm going all in with this. And I did. And so that's what brought me into the financial coaching piece, is because I realized that I am not the only one who's struggling with this. I'm not the only
right.
one who's being told that it's not enough,
Right.
on this rat race of like never, always chasing the dollar and
Mm,
those kinds of things. So that's really what brought me into, okay, I know I can help people. I know I can help them in a very powerful way and in a very deep way.
mm.
And a series of events essentially unfolded that led me into really saying, okay, yeah, like this is it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
That's awesome. So your approach that you take is, like I mentioned before, is very holistic.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to just, and you can go into however much detail you want to, keep it within the confines of this conversation. But I would love to know just kind of how, because I think when it comes to money, we're society has a very linear way of thinking about money, right?
Mhm.
And yours is the way you're teaching it is it's a bit more abstract for people, like thinking about it in this holistic way with this mind, body, soul approach. So can you touch on those pieces and what that approach looks like and helping people really heal their relationship with money?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that a lot of people think that, especially like the women that I've worked with, and they came to me and they're like, I just need the next thing. I need the next new strategy. I need the investment idea. I need this real tangible thing, like you're saying. And because that's what society has taught us. Like
Yep.
we have to just, whatever, get another job or trade more time for money or,
Yep.
work harder.
Yep.
And what I have seen in my 18 years in doing this is that it's actually not about the strategies that you're taking that's going to make you wealthy. It really is what's going to determine whether or not you're wealthy is your relationship towards money. And I know that's kind of a an abstract conversation, so we'll bring it into something really tangible, which let's personify money. I love to do this because it really helps people to see like how we're showing up. So you have a relationship with money, whether you realize it or not, right? We have relationships with everything that we're interacting with on a daily basis. And money is a huge part of what we interact with every day. And so I look at it like this. If you were showing up, let's say money was like replace your partner with money. And let's say that, money, your relationship with money, if every single time my husband walked in the door, I was anxiety I had all this anxiety and I was like, are you gonna be here? Like how long are you gonna be here? And like I'm attached to his leg, like when a kid like wraps around the dad's leg, like I'm attached to his leg and I'm like, don't leave. When are you coming back? When are you gonna, right? Like have this frantic energy or the opposite of that, which is some people are more avoidant around their
Hmm.
finances. And he walks in the door and I'm like, I don't even want to look at you. You stress me out so much. Every time you're around, I get anxious and I get scared and I just want to run away. It's like, how great of a relationship would that be? It wouldn't be, but yet we show up around money in these ways and we just expect to receive more of it. And we just expect things to, fall into place whenever we haven't looked at how we're showing up around money in the first place. And a
Hmm.
lot of this is dependent on the way that we were raised and the programs that we were given and as, children, which or inherited. So the way that to answer your question, the way that I approach this is from a mind, body, and soul perspective, meaning that a lot of people think that, mindset alone is going to, they just have to think positive thoughts or they just have to visualize or whatever it is, and they're going to receive everything that they desire. But the problem is that there's a physical component of it as well, which is our nervous system. And our nervous system is designed in a way where anything that's unfamiliar to the nervous system is going to be deemed as unsafe automatically because it's tied to survival. And essentially, if you have never achieved financial freedom or, financial success beyond where you're at right now, the nervous system is not going to feel safe moving to that next level until we make it safe, until we
Hmm.
actually show it that it's safe to do that. So this kind of shows up for people as though they take like one step forward and two steps back, or they have these roller coaster income months, or they start to create momentum in their life or in their business, but then they find that they need to spend all of the money that they've just saved. So there's ways like that it kind of shows up. It feels like this almost internal struggle of like, I really want to make more money, but I don't know if I'm capable, or I really want to go and do this, but I'm not that type of person. So those are the kinds of things that, in my experience, in working with people as long as I have, it's not the strategy that's going to get us there. And I'll get to the soul here in a second. It's not the strategy that's going to get us there. It's actually rewiring what's below the surface because studies actually show that only 5% of our decisions, and you know this too, being a practitioner of NLP, only 5% of our decisions on a daily basis are made from the conscious mind.
Hmm.
95% of the things that we're doing are based on our unconscious programs, such as our unconscious mind, our nervous system. And actually, no, like new studies have shown that about 80% of the decisions that we make are made from the body up to the brain, meaning our nervous system is actually sending signals of either safety or danger to our brain to tell us whether or not we should be taking certain actions. And it's all based on our experiences and our programs and the way that we've shown up around money to date.
Hmm.
So it's so much bigger of a conversation than I think people realize.
Yep.
And so that's why I take this holistic approach. And then the last piece is the soul, which I believe that, the work that I do in the world is really helping women to access their what I call their soul power. It's the name of my podcast. But it's really just like, okay, so it's not just about making money to make money because I was making a ton of money yet crying on the way home from work every day.
Right.
It is about how do I do this in alignment with my soul's path? Or at
Mm.
least how do I do this in a way that makes me feel fulfilled, not just going with society's, whatever they say we have to do and like sacrifice everything and
Right.
slave away for the man. Like we don't need to do that. We actually are able to find ways that we can do this that's an alignment that feels good.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying it's a holistic conversation because it's not just a one-sided approach.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that. And that was so thorough and makes so much sense. And I do think, I mean, it's the point you just made is a really important one because I think we can all recognize people who have quote unquote made it to the top and they've made a gajillion dollars, but they're completely unfulfilled and empty inside. Like it's not bringing that, big, that we think it would for everyone. So there, it's not just about making a lot of money. It's like you're saying, it's how you're getting there. It's the way you're doing it and how you feel when you're doing it. That makes a huge difference.
100%. I think it's Jim Carrey that says, like, I wish everyone could get rich and famous to see that it's not about rich, it's that it's not
Hmm.
about fame. And
Yes.
sometimes that is something that we have to walk and learn on our own. Like I wasn't gonna take anybody else's, word for it. Like I had to go figure that out and realize that, this is a number in my bank account, but I still feel exactly the same way. I'm still
Right.
struggling with the scarcity, the not enoughness, the unworthiness, all of the things that I experienced from childhood. So
Hmm.
yeah, money in and of itself is not going to heal your relationship with it. It's not going to change the trajectory of your life because if it would, then lottery winners, there wouldn't be a show called The Lottery Ruined My Life. And my dad hit the
Right.
lottery and, spent it all. So this
Wow.
is very real for people and more money. And a lot of people say, like, I just need to make more. I just need to have a windfall. I've just seen more times than I can even count that that doesn't actually change anything if you
Totally.
don't
Yeah.
address the core wounds.
Exactly. I don't know if you're familiar with Melanie and Lair, but she always says that if money went where it was needed, then there wouldn't be any poverty in the world. Like if it's not about who needs it. That's not how it works.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So what do you find in working with the clients you work with are some of the most common um blocks, I guess is the word that I want to say, the most common blocks around money, or the most common kind of sticky points with the relationship with money?
Yeah, so there's so many that and it does depend on, specific programming, but realistically, some of the things that I see most often is these core wounds that I think that we all have, which are, I'm not deserving of money, I'm not worthy, I'm not the kind of person. And those all show up in different ways because I don't think that we walk around saying those things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have to actually, and this is why it's nuanced and sometimes we need support with this because these things show up in our patterns and our habits and not actually through our language, if that
Right.
makes sense. Not
Mm-hmm.
always.
Yep.
So it
Yep.
shows up like we undercharge because we don't actually think we're worthy of charging that much, or we don't receive gifts, we don't like to receive support and things like that. Like those are the kind of ways that that shows up. And if you start to notice the way you show up around money, you will begin to get a clue as to how you feel and about not only your capabilities, but your capabilities to make money.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes total sense. And what do you say to people when there are people who are, because I know it's a fine line between, okay, I want to feel, I want to have this, these amazing feelings about money. I want to have relationships with money. But then like I mean, you know this because you went through it. You said you lived below the poverty line. There is a point where you're like, but I do need the money. Like I need to survive. I got bills to pay. I got mouths to feed. Like I want it, I want this part, but then also, so how do you deal with that kind of push pull that can happen?
Yeah, so it's really sometimes about doing what you have to do until you can do what you want
Mm,
to do. And
hmm.
that's the way that I look at it. I just truly, genuinely at this point in my life believe that everything is happening to me and not, or it's happening for me, not to me,
Right,
right?
right.
So if something like that is coming up in my life or a client's life, we really try to look at, okay, how could this be for you? So, for instance, I have a client who she just started a sales role and she's very stressed out there because she was trying to start her business and she was struggling. And that's why she came to me. And she's like, I cannot get this thing off the ground. She's a lot of stuff that we need to work on and release and heal. But she's now in this sales role. And really, sometimes that is what it looks like is doing something for a period of time so that you're not coming from building a business from a place of scarcity. Because you and I
Mm,
both know that that desperate energy of like,
yeah.
I need this
Yep.
client or
Yep.
else
Yep.
my kid's not going to eat. Like, that's not the kind of energy that people want to invest in, right?
Yes.
So sometimes it is actually about doing what you have to do until you can do what you want to do, but
Mhm.
it's not, it's having an end in sight. Like
Right.
this is a designated period of time that I'm going to be working at this sales role or at this job. And while I'm doing that, no matter how difficult it seems or how much I don't want to have to do this at night when I get home, I'm also simultaneously creating a plan to get out of this scenario so
Mhm.
that I can go off and do what it is that I want to do.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it just goes back to what you're saying about the nervous system. Like if you're building a business with a completely dysregulated nervous system, then you're definitely not going to be building the, financial success that you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's the worst energy to be building a business in,
Yeah.
because it also is a constant threat to the nervous
Right.
system. Like
Right.
your nervous system will then start to think business actually isn't safe because look, I
Hmm.
can't even eat tonight, right? Like
Hmm.
so you don't want that correlation. You want to feel very regulated. You want to feel very, as abundant as you can, and then go out and, try to bring in clients.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. So, for those people who are listening who maybe they've never done any of this kind of work before, and the whole like holistic approach to this is kind of a foreign concept, what would you say are some of the first, maybe couple, two or three steps for them to take to kind of start getting into this money work and working with their money relationship?
Yeah, I love the question. So, if you're not where you want to be from a financial perspective right now, there's a couple things that I would start with just becoming aware of. So I have a method that I teach that really, I call this developing what's called your awareness lens. It's kind of like we can't fix a problem or a cycle in our lives that we're not even aware of,
Hmm.
right? Like it's a blind spot for us. And I'm sure we could probably look at other people and say, hey, if so and so would just stop doing this or stop dating that kind of guy, or she would do this differently, like we can see it in other people,
Yep.
but why aren't they able to see it in their own lives? Because it's a blind spot for them. We all need support sometimes in seeing those blind spots. So I would say that one of the things that I would start with is the simplest way to do this is really just notice how you're speaking or the even what you're hearing in your mind about yourself and about money. So
Mm,
if I were to ask you the same question my mentor asked me, how much money would you want to make if you could make any amount of money in the world? What starts to come up? Is it, well, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not the type of person who could do that. Or if I said to you, you could 10x your income right now, and if I flip this switch, that will happen. What starts to come up? What are
hmm
the thoughts? What are the emotions? What are the sensations? Those are all things that are going to be like clear indicators that, hey, that's basically your nervous system and your unconscious mind saying, hey, here's what's in the way between where you are right now and that reality. Because I believe that if you even thought of it and you really want it and you desire it, that it actually is for you, that there's a
right,
timeline that exists that you can create that. So it really is just showing you what's in the way. But a lot of times people will just think, oh, because I thought that thought, or because I had a fear around this, or because I got really scared and I, canceled that event that I was supposed to speak at, or whatever it is that we've done in the past through financial mistakes, if you will, which I don't believe are mistakes, but it's like that's all evidence for us that, oh, see, I'm not supposed to do it
hmm
because I'm hearing these things, because I'm experiencing these things. And that's actually couldn't be further from the truth. Those things are coming up to show you where you need to heal in order to move on to that next level.
That's so good. Yeah, I think that's a big one for people. And I mean, I know that's been a big, like learning opportunity, like recurring learning opportunity for me is not measuring. It's the whole saying about like not measuring where you are by your past, failures or whatever. And I think that's a really tricky thing to rewire and reframe in your mind is you have all this evidence of why it hasn't worked before and why it's not working. And it's hard to look past that to see where it could potentially go, where it could, what's available for you.
Yeah, 100%. And this is why I do the work that I do, because the method that I teach, once we cultivate awareness to what's actually blocking you, then we move into step number two, which is we create a liberation toolkit to let those things go. Because right
Mm,
now, you're right, you cannot solve a problem. This is Albert Einstein saying you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that you used to create it. So
yep.
you're right. A lot of times, you're not going to be able to solve the problem that you're in or the situation that you're in right now with the same level of thinking that got you here. That's just the way it works. We have to expand our mind. We have to expand what it is that we're doing and experiencing and learning so that we actually can get to that next level.
Mhm.
Because if you're just carrying all of these old beliefs and old programming in, and you're trying to create something new from that, it just doesn't work that way. from a quantum perspective, from a neuroscience perspective, it doesn't work that way. We have to actually release those old programs in order to make room for something new. And I kind of always say, like, if you ordered bedroom furniture and you brought a bed into your room, like your bedroom, are you just going to stick it on top of the other bed, or are you going to pull
Hmm.
out the old furniture? You can't just, that's why sometimes like affirmations don't work, and just reading the books and taking the courses without actually doing any of the release work. It's
Right.
kind of like you're trying to pile all this more information on top instead of, actually just releasing the thing that's keeping you stuck in the first place.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And I know this is going to be kind of a nuanced thing depending on who you're working with, but what is, maybe give just an example of what this release, you're talking about release, what that might look like for somebody. Like we've got all this stuff and we want to get rid of it before we pile more stuff on it. What does that release look like?
Yeah, so there again, like you said, there's nuances to it. It depends on which body the block is stored in, so the mind,
Hmm.
body, or the soul. But let's say it's the mental body, and you have a limiting belief where you just have, these constant thoughts about, I can't do this. I'm not the type of person. I don't even know if I'm not qualified for this, or I'm not worthy of this. The release happens I'm a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming. I do energy work with clients, so we're getting to the root cause of why you believe that, and we're releasing it at the root. Because again, surface level approaches don't really get to the root and do that. But one of the simplest ways, if someone is finding that they're noticing that they say something about money, or I'm bad at money all the time, like something like that, you can actually just start to loosen the grip of that belief by a couple different things. Number one is just questioning the belief, questioning the validity of the belief. Like, where did this come from? Whose voice is this anyway? Like, was I stamped at birth? Well, I came out of my mother's womb and God, stamped me on the forehead. Like, she's not going to be worthy of making more than $10,000 a month. Like, that doesn't even make sense, right? So
Hmm.
sometimes it's like we don't even know when we decided that this belief is true. It's just like we're walking around telling ourselves these stories that
Yep.
we don't even know. Or,
Where
first of
they
all, they're
came
not
from.
true, but we don't even
Hmm.
know where they came from.
Hmm.
So, questioning the validity and where it came from and starting to do a little bit of digging, that's one modality that you could definitely use like right away to start loosening the grip on some of those things. But
Yeah,
there's
that's
many, many
good.
different things that we use.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great place to start. And I'm trying to think when you were saying that, I was trying to think of the gal. There's a book that I read and but she's all about questioning beliefs. And it's like the five, how she explains it. But it's basically like asking yourself why 5 times. Like keep going,
Mm,
why, and
yeah.
why. And getting down, like once we ask ourselves why that many times, really
Yes.
getting down to it. So I think that's a perfect place for people to start is questioning. Because a lot of times that's the thing. We don't even question. And I think that goes with anything. It's not even just about money. We don't even question why we believe things we believe. Like we were told at some point to believe it, or we were programmed, and we never question why that is why.
Yeah. If you spell out the word belief, even in the word belief is the word lie. It's just a lie that you've been telling yourself over
Ah,
and over, because there's no such thing as it relates to these kinds of things as absolute truth.
exactly. Yeah,
Because it's something that you picked up on. And if one person in the world who came from a similar background as you did can go out and do it, then you can too. That's not a truth that you're
right.
telling yourself that you can't just because of where you came from. It's just a lie that you've been repeating for long enough that now you believe it's true.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so good. This is such a good conversation. I have another question that I want to ask you. This has been I am so glad we were able to bring this conversation, this really holistic conversation around money to my listeners because I think I mean, this really goes with when you're talking about holistic health and holistic well-being. I mean, this is part of it. Wealth is a part of it. So I love that you are taking this approach and including this in the holistic well-being wellness equation. I love it. So before I ask you the last question I'm going to ask you, can you let everybody know where they can find out more about you? And is there anything you want them to go check out as they kind of start their money healing journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Just before I answer that, just
Yeah.
really quickly, like the nervous system is such a huge part of your health.
Hmm.
So if you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling stressed, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything in life. And if
Yeah.
you're noticing that this is coming up in the area of finances, it's likely coming up in other areas as well. And as we know, stress-induced illness is the number one cause of disease and death in our country. So this goes way deeper. I talk about money because that's my background and a lot of people want to make money, but there's so much more that occurs when you start this healing journey. So to answer your question, yeah, I'm on all of the social medias as Rise with Rebekah. My name's spelled a little differently, so I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes. But and my podcast is called the Soul Powered Podcast. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me, you can definitely go and check that out. I talk all about this kind of stuff and more on there. And if you check me out on Instagram, you can definitely send me a DM or, I have a free training and I have some free resources right in my bio there that you can grab to learn more as well.
Perfect. Of course, I'll have all that in the show notes. And I'm glad that you said that because what you just said about the holistic, all of that together, because I have had so many clients, and obviously my approach is for health, like physical, health, all that. But I've had so many clients where we're picking up patterns that have led to these health things, and it 100%. We can track it down like, oh, I have this pattern in my business and I have this pattern in my relationship. Like it is never just one thing. So I'm so glad you brought that up because it translates across all aspects of life. It's never just one.
100%.
Yeah,
Yep. I
yeah,
love
I love
that.
that. Yeah. Okay, the last question I want to ask that I like to ask everybody as we wrap up, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
I love this question. So I really think that what's coming through for me is to follow your heart and to trust yourself, even when people around you don't understand what you're doing. Because if you're trying to live against the grain and you're going in a different route, that's what living in your purpose is. You're gonna have people that are gonna give you pushback. There's gonna be people who don't understand that do not see your vision. But the thing is that they can't see your vision because God didn't give them your dream.
Mm,
Your dream and you're the one who's meant to fulfill this. And where you don't want to end up is 85 years old, wishing that you took action, wishing that you moved towards your dreams and your goals. Study after study shows that people who are on their deathbed, that's one of the main things they wish they did. So people are going to give you pushback. People are going to give you resistance. My recommendation is to get around others who are actually going to support you in this and get into rooms where this is a normal conversation. Listen to podcasts like this one, where you're going to be constantly showing your mind and your nervous system that this kind of journey is safe. And that's what
mm.
you're doing by tuning into these things. So trust yourself, trust your heart. It's not always going to be easy, but I promise it'll be worth it.
I love that. That was such a great answer. I love that answer you just gave. And I love that because you're right. Not everybody's going to understand your vision because God didn't give it to them. He gave it to you. So that is so profound. I love it. I love this.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Rebecca. This is such a great conversation. I know it's going to help so many people. And y'all go check out, well, go follow, give Rebecca a follow, but check out all of the trainings and her podcast and all of that. And let this be a part of your wellness and well-being regimen is working on your relationship with money and add this to the holistic wellness equation. It's all part of it. So thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.